People tell me that choosing a topic for this class is difficult. Shouldn't be, just talk about something that you're interested in. What's actually difficult is narrowing your topic. Once you find something that you're interested in, it comes time to actually focus it down and make it fit within the parameters of what you can actually accomplish in 5 to 7 minutes. The book goes through a 3-step process, kind of like a funnel. It starts out with the general purpose, goes down to the specific purpose, and finally comes down to the take-home message. The textbook uses the term thesis statement, but we'll use take-home message for the purposes of this class. The first step is identifying what is your main purpose. This is the big picture. The textbook defines 4 different general purposes. First one is to inform, which is essentially just to educate us about a subject. The second is to invite, which is to explore in depth with the audience. We are not going to be doing one of these speeches. The third is to persuade or to influence, to get us to think, feel, or do something. And the fourth one is to evoke or to create an emotion. As we talked about in class, every speech needs to evoke an emotion. If it does not trigger an emotion, everything you say will go in one ear and out the other. I've made the general purpose easy for you. The first speech is an informative speech, so you're going to educate us about something. The next 3 are all persuasive speeches. The argumentative speech is just a simple persuasive speech where you're going to try to convince us to think, feel, or do something. The third speech is an interactive speech, where you're going to try to convince us to think, feel, or do something by engaging the audience in an interaction. And the last speech is the call to action speech. We're going to convince us to take an action right here, right now. So if you got something to get us to do something, save it for this last speech.
We surveyed 100 people. We got the top 6 answers on the board. Try to get the most popular answer. You ready? Here we go.
Nothing is harder than giving a speech on something you really don't care about. For example, the chapter presentations that you have to give. Pick a topic that you want to talk about. At this point, the audience's opinion really doesn't matter. Yes, you do want to make your topic interesting to the audience, but that comes later in the process. If you choose a topic based on what you think the audience wants to hear, it's pretty much guaranteed to fail. So choose the topic that you're interested in. It's much easier to talk about, and we can turn it around and make it interesting to the audience later. And again, we talked about this before. Nothing is worse than sitting at your computer with the cursor blinking at you and a blank page. Brainstorm ideas with your friends, with your classmates. You can come in and talk to me, because once that first idea is out, it's much easier to come up with other ideas. So we started out wide with the general purpose, and now we're at the specific purpose, getting a little bit more narrow. So what do you want to accomplish? And be specific. And then my question for you is always, are you sure about that? This is where people tend to skimp and think that, oh, I know exactly what I want to accomplish. But if you can't articulate it, how do you know that you know what you want to accomplish? People get this wrong all the time, and their speeches suffer because of it. So let's go through a few examples. Use the pause button and see if you can identify what you think your specific purpose would be. No cheating, you actually need to think about this. The specific purpose is what you want us to think, feel, or do. When toasting your best friend, you probably want us to feel something, right? What did you come up with? What about if you're selling beer? This one should be pretty easy. You want to sell beer, right? Specifically, Miller Lite. This one's a little trickier. If you were like most people, you probably think of the TV show Card Shark, where somebody gets up, they've got 2 minutes to give a presentation to these rich people who are going to, give them tons of money. But this show has about as much tie to reality as The Bachelor or The Bachelorette. Let's be honest, nobody's going to give you $1 million for your idea based on a 2-minute presentation. reread the description and think about, what is this venture capitalist going to do? What are they going to base their decision on? Your presentation or the professional business plan that you developed? Venture capitalists are budget geeks. They live and die by numbers. So they're going to go through your business plan and find out, does it make sense? How much money am I going to make? What are my risks? What are my rewards? All of that. So they're not going to give you money based on your presentation. So what is your presentation for? Well, venture capitalists receive hundreds, perhaps thousands of these proposals every year. And so they can't possibly go through all of them. So they have you come in, do a 10, 15-minute presentation, and your job is to get them excited about your business proposal. When you are finished with your presentation, you want them to take your proposal, put it on top of their to-read pile, so when they go back to the office, it's sitting at the top of the pile and they've got this positive mental image of you. Then they'll go through, they'll run the numbers and decide whether or not to give you the money. They are not going to give it to you based on your presentation alone. And here's the last one. This one's a little bit trickier in that you really have two specific purposes. The first one has to do with the new sexual harassment policy. The reason you're giving the presentation is probably to cover your butt. So you really want to make sure that it's clear to everybody you do not do this. But what's your other specific purpose? Given that the meeting is just before lunch, you are the last speaker before lunch, one of your jobs is to get them out on time. So if the meeting is supposed to end at noon, you damn sure better be finished by noon. I know the temptation is to think that you can spend as much time as necessary to go through the entire policy, but as soon as the clock strikes 12, you know that everybody is going to stop paying attention anyway. So you need to be done on time.